You know what's fascinating about modern life? We spend decades building our identities around what we do, but nobody prepares us for who we become when that identity suddenly vanishes.
That reminds me of some recent research about identity loss in career transitions. The numbers are pretty striking.
Well, I was just talking to this retired executive who put it in such a vivid way. He said, "I thought freedom would feel like flying. Instead, it feels like floating. And not the peaceful kind of floating. More like being lost at sea."
That's such a powerful metaphor for what psychologists call role exit theory. Studies show nearly 60% of recent retirees experience some form of identity crisis.
You know what really struck me? He described this thing called phantom schedule syndrome, where his body would literally tense up for meetings that didn't exist anymore, like an amputee feeling a missing limb.
That's actually a documented phenomenon. The American Psychological Association has research showing how our circadian rhythms and stress responses stay synchronized to our work schedules for months after retirement.
He told me about this morning where he actually got dressed in his power suit, complete with his lucky tie, and was halfway to his car before reality hit him. There was no board meeting anymore.
Well, that connects to something interesting. A recent study found that 72% of executives report experiencing these kinds of autopilot moments in the first year after retirement.
But here's what really got to me. He said, "I don't even miss the work itself. I miss mattering." Every email, every meeting request, every deadline was proof that his existence had weight in the world.
That touches on something fundamental about how we measure worth in our society, doesn't it?
Exactly. And get this. He found himself creating these elaborate color-coded calendars full of hobby classes and volunteer commitments, trying to recreate that sense of purpose. He called it building a skyscraper out of paper.
The data shows this is incredibly common. Something like 65% of recent retirees initially try to structure their free time like a work schedule.
But here's where his story takes an unexpected turn. A friend suggested something that went against everything he'd learned in his career. What if, instead of trying to fill the void, he just sat with the discomfort?
That's quite contrary to the typical retirement coaching advice, isn't it?
Completely. And you know what's fascinating? Recent studies show that retirees who allow themselves an adjustment period without trying to immediately replace their work identity report higher life satisfaction after 2 years.
So what happened when he tried this approach?
Well, he described it as learning a new language, the language of being rather than doing. He shared this moment where he caught himself planning an elaborate hiking schedule with spreadsheets and metrics, and then just stopped.
That reminds me of research from the Harvard Business Review about how executives often try to apply productivity metrics to their leisure time.
And here's what I found most profound. This isn't just about retirement. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the average person will go through 12 major role transitions in their lifetime. Each one requires this same kind of identity reconstruction.
That really broadens the relevance of his experience beyond just the retirement context.
Exactly. Whether it's leaving a career, ending a relationship, or moving to a new country, these moments of identity disruption are universal. The research shows that about 40% of all major life transitions trigger some form of identity crisis.
So what's the key to navigating these transitions successfully?
Well, according to recent psychological studies, it's about developing what they call identity flexibility, the ability to hold your sense of self loosely enough that it can evolve with your circumstances.
That's quite different from the traditional advice about finding yourself.
And maybe that's the real insight here, that sometimes the most significant growth happens not through active searching, but through allowing ourselves to exist in that uncertain space between who we were and who we're becoming.
Through learning to float rather than always swimming toward something.
Exactly. As my executive friend finally realized, sometimes floating isn't the same as being lost. Sometimes it's just how we transition from one way of being to another. And that's not just okay. According to the research, it might actually be essential.